Hey guys, thanks for showing up for another episode of Entrepreneur, where we help you build your business, grow your business, systematize, and hey, let's scale that up. Well, and we are having some tech issues right now. And so we'll see. We're have a guest. He's an absolute amazing physician, entrepreneur, fund manager, real estate developer. My God, he does so many different things. His name's Amir Baluch. I'm going to go ahead and hide for a second while I figure out what is actually going on with these tech issues. And I'm bringing this up because I am going to share with you a little bit more about what we've got going on tomorrow when we're talking about roll-ups and business opportunities and the way that you exit, become a multi-millionaire, sharing a lot of that. I'll talk about it while we wait for Amir to join. All right, guys. Well, it may be a little while, so let me go ahead and just start sharing a little bit. We are doing another YouTube live tomorrow. It is on behalf of actually my law firm, Crowdfunding Lawyers. And the substance, what we're going to be talking about is really how to become a millionaire through a strategy that I like to call a roll-up. Maybe you've heard it. It is something that more and more people are trying to do. And the secret sauce about why people are trying to do this, these business acquisitions. I mean, let's start with, it is the opportunity of really a lifetime, because we have now a massive group of boomers, the older generation, that actually they own these cash flowing businesses. They're already profitable and they are looking to retire. And so a lot of them are selling their businesses, creating new opportunities for new entrepreneurs, where maybe you don't want to start from scratch. Maybe you don't want to found your own business or found your own company. At the end of the day, maybe it makes more sense to actually just buy a business. And you know what? I'm share exactly what I do as well. I have bought multiple businesses over the years. I've founded multiple businesses over the years. And I got to be honest, it is a lot easier to buy a business than to start it from scratch. So, and here's the secret at the end of the day. And I literally closed on a business just this week. It's a marketing coaching program. It's something that we'll offer through Entrepreneur, but it all relates to, and everything that I do is helping you build your business. And oftentimes that requires investor capital. So really my focus is on acquiring businesses that surround really just finding investor capital so you can buy businesses, real estate, or otherwise. So I do see Amir coming on, but however, I just want to give you a little bit of information about what we're doing tomorrow. So what I'm doing, I would call it a vertical acquisition strategy, where I have my single purpose, helping you raise investor capital. And all of the businesses that I acquire, that I found all surround this. And the goal at the end of the day is to make this a reality. When we have this small owner occupied or owner managed business, maybe it's worth 2.5 times the net profit. However, then the next step You're able to systematize, start to streamline, start to grow. And now all of a sudden it is worth 4 times your net profit. That's why you're really trying to build, grow, and streamline and systematize your business, because you're literally doubling the value. Now, as you continue to grow, private equity actually gets interested in your business because, you know, at the end of the day, they're trying to make ridiculous money by taking companies public. So a private equity firm will actually pay more than twice the amount of a private buyer, but you have to hit a certain level, at least be making $2.5 million per year. Of course, that takes some time. But their whole goal is to do the exact same roll-up strategy that I'm going to share with you in much more detail tomorrow, so that when they take the company public, you know, if you've seen the stock market, some of these price to earnings are in the hundreds, but the average for NASDAQ is around 20. So here's the value ladder to help you build your business, exit your business, become a millionaire. But tomorrow I'm going to share a whole lot more about it. So join us when I do another live Crowdfunding Lawyers on YouTube. It's same time, different place. All right, we have finally my good friends, my great, well, client. I mean, it's been how long? Like
decade and a half.
15 years. Yeah, it's
like
been
that.
15 years that we've been doing deals, and we've been working together throughout. I mean, it's just, it's, you didn't have gray hair when we first got started.
That's true.
But
and I had more of it too.
Every day. So I've got a great little toy that I got sent by one of these vendors.
Relax, calm down now. Don't stress. Take it easy.
So this is yeah. I'm keeping this right next to me just as that constant reminder of relax and enjoy. I do want to warn you, Amir, and everybody watching, I am sick as a dog. So I may actually ask some open-ended questions and you'll just see me disappear. It's because I am blowing my nose, coughing. Well, I'm just hiding while I can take care of this flu that apparently is going around everywhere. But Amir, last week I was in South Tahoe, skiing with my daughter at Heavenly for the entire week, but we stayed at a casino. She's the best casino buddy, where she's encouraging, hey, Dad, aren't you gambling? Why aren't you gambling? You know, if you're having a losing streak, keep gambling until you win.
Right.
Best casino buddy there's ever been. However, playing with all those chips that thousands of other people touch, I caught it.
You got something. Yeah. You got more than what you bargained for.
Oh, you nailed it. So Dr. Amir Baluch, I can give an introduction, but there is no one better to give the introduction than himself. We really do want to focus on your Amazon stores and that business line, that mailbox money, that other stream of income. But my God, you do so many different things that I'm always the guy saying, hey, why don't you not?
Right. I get it. I get it. So, but that's just the way I'm wired, I think. And, you know, speaking of my backstory, I think back when I was 21 and I didn't get into medical school, I got that rejection letter. That's when I started to worry about, hey, maybe I should diversify my skill set, because you can't even trust one skill set. And then my dad, who was a doctor, you know, I moved in back with my parents when I didn't get into medical school. Then he went bankrupt as an internal medicine doctor. So even if I was a doctor, maybe I can't even trust that income source. So that's when I started diversifying. And I like video games and staring at computer screens. So that's why e-commerce was actually pretty attractive to me even back then. And I started e-commerce back then in 2001 with an eBay store wholesaling supplements. I don't know if you remember Hydroxycut and Zenadrine. These are ephedra-based supplements, and creatine. And I just literally, I typed in wholesale supplements. There's a company called ProSourceOnline.com. I don't know if it still exists. I'll just buy it in masses for other medical students around me, and then I would get huge discounts. I would sell off the rest on eBay, and I was getting 30%, 40% profit margin, and not too many people were in it. This is back when Amazon was selling books. So, but eventually I did get into medical school, and I was also doing real estate along with e-commerce throughout that whole time, the 12 years of studying. Then eventually in 2010, I finished my anesthesia training. I came back to Texas from Miami, and very shortly afterwards, I got my real estate license and securities license, where I joined the broker dealer, and that's where I met you around 2010, 2011. And that's where I really learned how to put together deals and do due diligence, so that I could scale up something like what we're doing on the e-commerce side with Amazon. So we are very focused on that. Although I have other experience as well in real estate and business acquisitions and healthcare, but e-commerce, just actually last month, Amazon has surpassed uh, retail sales when it comes to overall sales. I think that just happened like a month or two ago. So it's
Like
not going
number one
away.
out of everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. That
So I was
Amazon
just
Prime.
Yeah, I was just sharing a little bit about like what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. And a great example actually is Amazon, because they became like the number one behemoth by doing roll-up strategies and acquiring businesses that vertically integrated with kind of their core goal. And that's how they
Yeah.
grew and scale. So I'm going to talk a whole lot more about that tomorrow, but
Very
only because
cool.
you brought up Amazon and we're talking all about it. And I do want to mention to everybody, one of, a couple of Amir's great attributes, why he is in part hugely successful. He's a physician, so he's already surrounded by high net worth individuals. But even more important than that, he got the education, but even more important than that, he got out there and just started. You just heard about his eBay business. So the number one most important thing that you got to do is get off that starting line. Don't allow that analysis paralysis to hold you back. You're going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes. Amir's made mistakes. It's just inevitable. And that's how you grow. All right. Sorry to interrupt you, Amir, but now we've got you working with securities. You're in a broker dealer. You're in real estate, and now you continue to diversify what you're doing. Please continue.
Well, so right now, fast forward to 2025, we have Baluch Capital, multi-asset platform for accredited investors if they want to get into alternative assets. We try to find non-correlated assets. What that means is, if one industry is going up and down, it's not affecting another one. So, for example, a debt fund and e-commerce, for example, might not be affected if the stock market goes down, or if interest rates are going up and affecting commercial real estate, it's not affecting investing into life settlements. So that way you get true diversity. So that's what we've really been focused on. And it is interesting that you're talking about business acquisitions right now, because we are full steam on business acquisitions in the e-commerce space. So we're just analyzing deals left and right, and able to get things as low as 3x EBITDA on the buyout. So it's been
And I
very
know
cool.
a lot of those tend to be other Amazon stores. And for everybody that's listening and watching, that is a strategy to grow, is to acquire the stores rather than founding them from scratch. But there's actually some additional benefits to that. And Amir, could you speak a little bit to why you're buying more of these businesses, even though you already own one?
Well, the cool thing is, when you buy a business, well, just look at the statistics on failing. So I like to reverse engineer failure and try to see how to avoid it. Most businesses, if you start from scratch, can have a high chance of failure. Some people say 80% in the first year, 80% in 5 years. But if you buy a business, the chance of you failing in the first year is less than 10%. So if you don't want to fail, business acquisition is not a bad way to go. Also, it's cash flow from day one. So usually without cash flow, businesses can die. In fact, in the private equity world, That's the number two reason for them dying off. After product market fit is number one, lack of capital and cash flow is number two. So imagine when you start from scratch with no customers, how much cash flow do you have? You got to keep pumping in your own money, or borrowing it from banks or investors or something, right? So on the business acquisition side, if you buy it right, you can be cash flowing pretty heavily on day one. That'll sustain the business for a while, and then you could build on top of that. So that's kind of where that's another reason we're going into this space, because I'm noticing a lot of my investors don't have patience for a bigger payoff down the road. They'd rather get smaller amounts of money now and some cash flow now to buy their time back. At least the people that work with me are looking more for passive income versus maybe waiting 5 years for a big pop, or in some case with private equity, because the way the markets are, 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Although it could be a big pop, but I think the mindset shift is shifting to cash flow. So that's why I'm shifting our platform in general to things that are more cash flow heavy, at least, 8, 10, 12% cash on cash from day one is kind of where we're moving our strategy. And so this business
Makes
acquisition
sense.
of e-commerce stores makes a lot of sense.
Let me ask you about these Amazon shops that you're acquiring or building. There's different strategies and approaches. You've got your own product. So you designed it, you created it, you patented something or whatever it is. And you can offer that. It's actually your product. I knew a guy that was making over $100,000 a year with just a unique computer keyboard that was there to help the visually disabled or elderly be able to actually see the keys. The other way to do it is, of course, drop shipping, where really you're just kind of marketing stuff out. And I don't know if drop shipping at this point, I'm going to be asking you about this. We've got fulfillment by Amazon where they literally handle everything, or you're just ordering it to be shipped out as it's actually bought. And then the third way, which I know for a fact, because I'm actually one of Amir's clients as well, is to find stock of great deals and then sell those on Amazon.
Right.
In terms of those three strategies, I already know you're doing the third one. Can you speak a little bit to either doing your own products or actually doing drop shipping?
Yeah, so all three of those business models have their own challenges and pros and cons. Let's start with the most low touch aspect, which we're going to say drop shipping, and then we'll talk about wholesale, and then we'll talk about private label as it becomes more involved and there's more art behind it. So on the drop shipping side, you're basically just acquiring customers for some other product. So maybe they land on your website, they put in an order, and you never actually physically have the inventory. Somebody else is going to fulfill that and drop ship it. And then after you get paid, then you pay for the product. So you get paid first, and then you pay for the product. So that's pretty cool if you're in a position where you might not have a lot of money saved up and you're really good at marketing and getting some quick sales. And
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
For drop shipping, I mean, a lot of what you do is on Amazon, but Amazon will also fulfill its own products and your products. Is
Right.
drop shipping a real good strategy when we talk about sales on Amazon, or is it actually better if you have your own sites that you're driving traffic to for separate sales?
Well, so now Amazon bans drop shipping because they can't really guarantee that the person selling it has verified the authenticity and the quality of the product, because they never touched it. They never touched the Amazon warehouse. So people that have a Shopify store, which that means you have your own website, you've got to generate your own traffic versus relying on Amazon's website traffic. If people are doing drop shipping, they're doing their own websites and getting their own customers, usually with ads or affiliate marketing. So if somebody wants to do drop shipping, they should probably not think about Amazon. It's a question mark on Walmart. They do allow it to some extent, but if they follow Amazon's path one day, that they won't. I mean, it was just 2 years ago where Amazon really started shutting down drop shipping stores. Otherwise, they liked it because they're getting so much transactional money. They didn't care at first until it became a headache for them, and people were
And let me
complaining about
just
quality.
mention, if you don't know about Shopify, definitely learn a little bit more. That is a great way to get started really in any business at all, because that's where you can place your products, you can place your services, and the customers can literally buy right there. Now you put your website face up, but really all the transactions are happening through Shopify. It's one of the quickest and easiest way to just start running forward as quickly as possible.
Yep.
Please continue.
So on the drop shipping, definitely look into Shopify as a platform, and definitely avoid Amazon because they will shut you down in a week. Now, if this was during COVID, people were making millions of dollars from 2020 to 2022 drop shipping. Even we did drop shipping based on some people I was helping them with their stores. They want to see higher volume. I'm like, if you want to see higher volume, we'll switch to drop shipping. Although there's a question mark if we're going to get shut down or not. But they saw, I mean, some people were seeing within a month, 16, 18K net profit, and they made that money before they had to actually, pay for the product. So that was pretty wild times back then. But now Amazon doesn't favor that. They were then moving to wholesale. So wholesale is the next level where it's a little bit more high touch than drop shipping, but you're not building it from scratch with your own brand. So in wholesale, you're basically just a reseller. You might make contact with a distributor for Legos, distributor for Barbie dolls, or we've even done products like men's underwear for incontinence. Like whatever the math says to do, we just make the contact and we do it. Salt shakers was big, cutlery sets have been big. And so
I think I remember you were selling like hookah charcoals for me at some point through Amazon. It can be
good
really
margins.
weird stuff. I mean, that's kind of the big thing. Like, where's the margins at?
Yeah. Some of those things where it doesn't cost a lot to make it, but it has a lot of utility for the end user, happens to have a lot of margins. Like some of your coffee stirrers is a little thin. I mean, you could get the thinnest piece of wood and it will do the job, but there's a certain value of being able to stir the sugar in your coffee, right? Same with the charcoal. It doesn't cost a lot to make it, but if you're gonna smoke some hookah, then you probably need it, right? So it's worth it. So those type of niche products have really good margins, but people don't think about it like that. But once you get into the numbers, you start realizing it's not the big glamorous product with all the flashing lights that is making the most amount of money. Could be everyday things like Kleenex or paper towels.
When we talk about that type of strategy, I know you've got a huge team that we'll talk about, but how do you actually source and find these opportunities?
Well, that was a big pain. So we were thinking, why wouldn't any distributor or supplier just take my money? Just, hey, give me your catalog. I'll decide based on the profit margin. I'll write you a check. But actually, it is more of a relationship game than I thought as I was scaling this thing up. So now that we've had relationships with them 2, 3, 4 years, like, oh, by the way, here's our secret catalog of product that we don't advertise to other people. Now that you've proven yourself by selling some of our lower profit margin stuff, we like you now. So really, you have to use a CRM and build relationships. And we reached out to at least 7,000 suppliers, not me personally, but a team of 6 people that we have that all they do is they make phone calls. And then going through the data, we build those relationships and go from there. And it just takes a while to build relationships. And just as you know, Nate, business is all about relationships, even including these lower touch online businesses. You still have relationships to build and foster and talk to them on the phone. Even visiting, I was just in New Jersey and New York 2 weeks, last Wednesday, and visiting with a distributor. And we'd already ordered from them. It's just, I want to solidify that thing and just shake their hand, because who knows, I might be ordering from them for 10 years. So those are the types of things you got to do if you really want to get the best deals. That's what you have to do. And if you don't have the relationship, then pretty much you might just want to write a big check. So like some people they want to start out with $500,000 order from day one. So
Got it.
those 2 ways to do it.
Let me ask you this, only because you brought up your cold callers. So is there, you basically bought a contact database of distributors. They're picking up the phone and just trying to find those opportunities that they're going to connect you, or they're going to connect somebody at a higher level to figure out if there's really a deal to be had. Is that kind of the process?
That's what we did. And we just asked them, hey, what is your process for making the order? What's your minimum order price? Do you have a catalog? What categories are you in? So they have their questions they're going to ask us. We have our questions that we're going to ask them. We put into the CRM database and we tag it. And so we know if somebody's like, let's say somebody who's working with us on a store, if they have, maybe just $10,000, $20,000, okay, we can't go to somebody where minimum purchase is 50 grand or 100 grand to get started. So, so that way we can categorize and kind of section off all the distributors and suppliers based on what they're looking for and what they offer.
Makes perfect sense. And I don't know if you're at this point creating your own products, but if you are, or at least have that knowledge, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so private label is actually the most fun, but it also requires the most amount of patience, which I know a lot of people don't have. so I really don't do that for very many people, because you do need to have a 2 to 3 year timeline before you can be profitable, even for things that don't have a lot of competition. So for example, we've created some products like a plant saucer. Like you have a plant, you're going to put water into it. The water might get somewhere. You put on a saucer, right? That's something simple. We've done another one, a galvanizing watering can. I didn't even know what this was, but the team said, hey, this is a good niche and it's growing because people are staying home more, and they're staying home more. They care about their gardens more. And anything dealing with home and garden is going up in demand, especially these really niche ones. So we did something like that where we created this very light galvanizing watering can for plants. And so that's doing pretty well. It did take about 2 years before we got, some positive cash flow months, but now we can scale it up, and, the ROI on some of these things is 20% a month on your inventory if you do it right.
You mentioned private label, and I'm talking about like creating your own products. I know that's one of these strategies. It's not like you invented something. You've taken something, slapped your style, your label, your store on, but now it's a brand new brand that you have to
Yes.
build a following and interest in. Is there more to it, to the private labeling?
Definitely, you got to think from step one, where are you going to source this stuff? So, for example, in this galvanizing watering can, we do have a contact in China that audits some manufacturers out there. So we give her the concept, and this sourcing agent will get 3 or 4 recommended manufacturers in China, and then send us the products. And then I physically had to open it up and like, okay, I knock on it, put in some water. Okay, is this pretty good? Can we make this our own? And we'll say, okay, we'll take this product, but make the nozzle a little bit taller and make the grip a little bit softer based on customer reviews from competitors. They complain about the grip or how much it holds. Maybe we need a bigger one with a softer grip, right? So we position ourselves at the sourcing level in China and say, we want to go to the market with this variation. This is the name of our brand. This is how we want it built. Send me your samples with these specifications. I'm going to pick one of you guys. That's step one. Then step two, you're going to get the samples and you're going to throw out your first round of inventory on Amazon. And so nobody knows who you are, you're on page 152, you're probably going to have to rely on some ads. So you're bleeding money in marketing, hoping to just break even on a sale so you can get some reviews and get some traction and some sales velocity. So then as your sales velocity goes up, you get more visibility. Now you're not on page 152, you're on page 3, 2, 1. People are finding you without you spending any ads. And now you could finally breathe and start making some profit, or at least break even. So that's why it's like such a long journey. Just like any business, you have no reviews and you're a new kid on the block, nobody wants to buy from you, right? Even I just sort everything by reviews on Amazon, and I pick the highest rated one, right? So
I
that's
think we all do.
yeah. So you can only compete on price when you have no reviews, which means you have no margins, which means you're negative, and that's going to happen for about a year or two. For most products, you can be negative for a certain amount of time, but it's your
So
brand, so
it sounds like I mean, we're talking about buying businesses. This is basically founding a business
that's what it
from
is. That's what
scratch.
it is. And if you do
Higher
the
risk,
math, yeah,
higher reward.
yep, basically that's what it is. If you're willing to wait, uh, do away with immediate cash flow, you're willing to wait 2 years and then maybe have a 5-year outlook, the amount of money you spend at the end of 5 years, you will make more possibly than acquiring a business. So there's more potential for money, but the sacrifice is you got to be very patient. You have to be ready to bleed money on ads. Uh, you have to maybe understand that you might not be successful at all. So, luckily we're successful 92% of the time on launches, which is pretty good. So, but 8% of the time we get blindsided, we go to the market and it flops or competitors come in. So that's a risk you take, but at the end of the day, you can get a bigger reward where your profit margins are way more than if you're wholesaling, and and the value of the store is multiples more than what you put into it. So it's just a
So what we're
trade-off.
really talking about is risk versus reward, founding versus buying profitable. It's all
Right.
the same stuff that we're talking about.
That's
So
right.
we do have a question, and please, any questions that you have, throw it in chat. We absolutely want to be responsive. And Kajo, always appreciate seeing you. Now, he's used sites like Alibaba. Now, that is just kind of a wholesale Chinese platform that, yeah, you can source about everything, but so can everyone else.
Right.
You've taken a different approach to it. Did you start or consider or ever use Alibaba in terms of just sourcing product?
So we look at Alibaba, but mainly just to see some concepts. And sometimes if you can see something trending on Alibaba, some people that are maybe wanting to drop ship or a non-branded item, they might buy from there. So it is good to get the data. But what a lot of people don't know is all that stuff on Alibaba is probably marked up, 20 to 50% from the real manufacturer. Like basically Alibaba is a wholesaler themselves because the real manufacturer,
Wholesaler?
yeah, because the real manufacturers, they're out in the rural areas. They don't speak English. They probably don't have internet. They're never going to list anything on a website, right? But there are the people that do have all that are on Alibaba. And so if you want to get the real prices, if you don't have boots on the ground in China, that's probably not going to happen. But sometimes it's okay. You could work with the wholesaler on Alibaba, and you could still make some profit margins. You just might be paying 20% more, which might be okay if your margins are 50%. But in some deals, you're going to end up being break even or negative because it just, really can't handle it. So that's
Two
one
things,
part of Alibaba.
two things that you have mentioned: analysis and data. Of course, the most important stuff to make your decision on what to pursue, what to buy, what to wholesale. What kind of data are you looking at, and how does that relate to your analysis?
Well, when it comes to trends, we like to see the velocity of sales. So, for example, something I'm looking at right now, this is out of curiosity because my mom needs to work out and she doesn't go to the gym that much. There's a full body suit with all these electrodes. It just shocks your muscles, right? You can just sit at home and for 20 minutes, shock yourself for 20 minutes so you don't have to go to the gym. So this thing is trending pretty fast right now, and I actually bought one. So I just want to try it out, you
I was
know.
going to say, you look way buffer now. So,
Right. So I just want to see what's going on. And when I look on Alibaba and even AliExpress, I could see that these stores were just recently selling this, and their sales volume is in the hundreds per month. And 2 months ago, that was not the case. So is this So this lets me know some psychology of the buyers in the US. Like they don't want to go to the gym. They want to work out more at home. People already know about Tonal and Peloton. Is this the next version? Because Peloton's really not buffing you up that much. It's good cardio. What can somebody do to buff somebody up that's too lazy for a tonal? So like you're seeing the mindset shift here, and you're getting the data on which type of products are addressing those concerns. And do you want to make a move? Is there enough sales per month where it makes sense to go in and private label this for myself? So
Okay.
that's some of the data that we like to use, and Alibaba and AliExpress are pretty good for that.
And is it, you mentioned trend, or like it sold a little bit before, now a lot. Is that a big part of the analysis, like how the sales are trending?
That's definitely part of it, because we want to look at if basically if something is trending, you have the wind behind you, which definitely helps. Now, something could be trending and the competition is growing in numbers faster than the trend. So, for example, in the med spa business in Dallas, way too many med spas, right? Even though the
Another
aesthetics
business that
industry,
you're in.
yeah, the aesthetics industry is growing, 11 to 17% per year, depending on which study you're reading. But the amount of med spas opening up is probably more than that. So the trend's not really helping you that much because there's too much competition coming into space. So that's another thing we have to analyze on Amazon. Over the last 6 months, has the amount of competition doubled? Well, if the trend is 20% a year and the competition is doubling, that trend is really not helping us that much. It's still going to be a fight. Whenever you go into business, I just think of it as war. I mean, you're going to go into a fight no matter what, no matter how smart you made your decision, what data you have. Like eventually, other people are going to get some of this data, and they're gonna want a piece of the market, right? So, but just these things can help you put together a picture of what you're getting into. I'd rather have something trending behind me than trending down. So imagine something's trending down and competition is coming up. Okay, this is going to be an uphill battle, right? But if competition is flat but the trend is up, for example, I missed this actually. GLP-1 supplements, these prebiotics, 6 months ago. Wait, no, 9 months ago, there were only 3 competitors for a GLP-1 supplement. And I told my team, how fast can we get something to market? Like, there's 3 competitors. I don't even have to run ads. I just list it, and I'm number 4. And we're going to make a lot of sales. Now there's like 7 pages of competitors within 6 to 9 months, right? So I could have gone in and the first month or two made some good money with no ads, and then now 7 pages of competitors jumped in with GLP-1 prebiotics. By the way, GLP-1 is like semaglutide, tirzepatide, all the weight loss drugs. So
Yeah, you're a doctor. We don't understand that at
yeah,
all. Not even gonna pretend.
right.
But I do
So
want to mention what you're truly talking about is economics, supply and demand. More
yes,
competitors, the supply goes up, and the demand, either it's matching that supply growth or your profit margin is shrinking. And I do want to
right.
mention that only because in the next couple of weeks, we're actually bringing on a PhD economics professor to
Very
dive
cool.
way deeper into the analysis and how economics really work as it applies to you starting or buying businesses.
Awesome. That's a
So
great topic, actually. I'm going to be on
all
that
of
one.
it is so important. We've got another question from Kajo, and then we are going to actually transition a little bit to talking about VAs, your
Okay.
offshore team. And Kajo's asking, how do you start building those relationships from the US with boots on the ground? Like, you're doing it offshore, but if you yourself had the bandwidth, which I know for a fact that you don't because you're emailing me at 3 a.m.
Right.
If somebody is that solopreneur, they're just getting started, they want to be the boots on the ground, what would your recommendation be?
Couple ways to do it. I'm going to tell you the way that I did it for the e-commerce. I bought out a small company of 3 people, and I said, hey, whatever you're making, I'm going to match that, even if you're not doing any work for me. Just sit here. I know what you guys can do. I'll bring enough work to replace that and fire all your clients. So they fired all the clients. They work for me full time. I put them on salary. So basically, they're not really VAs where it's just hourly work. Like they have a salary, and for the first couple months, they just sat there getting free money and not doing anything. Well, I figured out what the next plan, what the next stuff was. So, but these guys were really good because I consulted them at a high level, and they gave me some really high level answers. I'm like, okay, this is the team. This is the foundation of the team.
It's
Now, in
interesting
other,
that you say that when I've acquired quite a few companies over the years, and the most valuable asset is actually the team, the employees, and who they're working with. Because
yeah,
ultimately, that's going to be who either helps you grow and scale or fail, and you have to
yeah,
replace the team. But if you're doing the acquisitions that we've been talking about, and there's employees, make sure that they prove themselves too, because that's the biggest asset that you're buying.
right, right. And also just for yourself, it's good to know the culture of the business you're going to have when you're hiring people. So you can't just be like, oh, hey, this person has some good reviews on Upwork or Fiverr. Let me just keep them forever. You have to know what the culture is of your business. Like for me, it's ridiculous work ethic. Everybody is 7 days a week with almost no vacation. That's the mindset of everybody on my team. I didn't make it that way. They are like that, and those the people I attract. And then they have to be very ambitious. They have to think big, and they have to be helpful for each other. And it can't be about money. So nobody on my team really even cares about money. They just want to do something big with their life and be a part of something big. So those are some questions I asked to screen for that. Then the three questions that based on EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, is kind of there are all these little systems of how to run a business. I use EOS.
And
And
if you want to learn more about EOS, because it is a great entrepreneur operating system, the place to learn about that is Traction and Get a Grip. I forget what the author's name is. Maybe you remember, but that's where you learn all about that. And it's a great system.
Gino something, Gino. I forgot the last name. Maybe Gino Workman or something. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, it's been a little while. So, but we run the exact same thing in our businesses.
And it makes sense. So when you're hiring somebody, you know that they have to want the job, they have to be good at it, and they have to have the capacity to do it. So like if it requires 60 hours a week and they can only put in 20, okay, they have 2 out of the 3. And I actually created a scoring mechanism where I give them up to 2 points in each category, 5 for the culture and then 3 for this the job fitting thing, and then it just becomes a mathematical equation on who I need to hire.
It makes sense. And I know that a lot of your team is in Pakistan. Is your entire team in Pakistan, or are you finding VAs in different countries for different purposes?
Well, so the core team is there, and we have an office on the 6th floor in Multan. It's actually like the highest office building in the city because it's not that big of a city, but it's really cool to have a presence there. It helps with our HR actually. And we will sometimes consult with some people in the US, but US is a little bit more expensive. I don't mind paying $250 to $500 an hour for like somebody that's in the top 0.1 percentile and can solve my $100,000 problem. So it's probably a good deal. So sometimes we get insights there, and we also have some masterminds that we're a part of, and memberships that we're a part of. For example, when I was in New York with this distributor, there's another group called ASG, Amazon Selling Group. The thing have like 78,000 Amazon sellers are part of this group. I met with the president when I was there. I met with people from Temu and who else was there? Shein, like literally the business development managers that run the US version of it, right? So you go to these masterminds, you can ask them questions about the market, where things are going, and literally they're right there because I'm a member of this group, and that costs money. But so we have those US consultants that we use, but the day-to-day work is done in Pakistan. And
I think the biggest thing that you're saying that really people need to take away with is education and knowledge is literally one of the most important things if you're starting or running your own business in both the areas that you want to grow in, as well as those areas that, hey, you're just trying to systematize and maybe you don't know enough, but there's a pro that can actually do it, that you can bring in. They can help you set up the machine. And then all you got to do is enjoy those mailbox checks.
Right, right. A good thing to do is if people set up like an organizational chart for their company, you have the CEO, the COO, and then you have sales department, marketing, you have bookkeeping, you have hiring. Which part do you like to do? And just do that really well, and then hire everybody else. Find out what your ikigai is, or what you're passionate about, what your skill set is, and then hire around you to cover your weaknesses. And you could do that in any business. So
absolutely. Let me ask you this. Now you have a fairly large offshore team. How did you start with number one? Or was that the 3-person team with the business that you automatically were buying into? But how'd you actually start to scale your offshore operations?
So I was interviewing consultants just to see what I could do in private label and what made sense and what the market was like. And then one consultant was really giving me some details on these big time Amazon hacks. I'm like, wait a second, this is pretty good. And then he had a team of people, and that's why I'm like, okay, well, how much are you really making? Just tell me. He gave me a number. It's like, great, that's your salary starting next week if you want, and fire all your clients. So that's how I did it. And I said, come off of Upwork, you're done. Don't ever be on this website again. So, and then we hired from there because he happened to be an influencer. And now we just have meetups, and people, come by hundreds, and we just cherry pick them and add them to our team if they make the cut.
I love it. And I know somebody else that has a very similar business where they'll have their office administration in the Philippines. They have their software development in Vietnam. Yep. And actually their first hire is an HR. They're the boots on the ground to find the right people to actually hire to help build the team. Now, this guy had 35 software developers, so he actually was creating a massive team, but he started with HR and hiring and just continued to go from there.
And that makes sense, because like in that book Traction, Gino says that more important than the destination is like who's on the bus, who are the people in the seats. Those are the people that are going to drive the company to the future goal. So that makes a lot of sense to actually start with HR or a headhunter or something like that.
And it's exactly what I was just mentioning. If you're going to buy a business, you're buying the team. So it all really is truly one of the most important things possible.
Yeah, yeah.
At this point, it's interesting. I have software development out of India. I have a appointment setter out of the Philippines, an attorney out of the Philippines, and he doesn't actually do legal work, so don't worry about that. And actually, my office administration is out of Kenya, Africa.
Oh.
So literally, I'm leveraging across the globe. And I'll just share my strategy in Kenya because it's been just amazing. I hired this lady, and now it's probably been 5-6 years. And, she was dirt cheap. I think I was paying her $15 a day. It was a good compensation for where she was at. But then she graduated from college, and I gave her a raise. Now I'm paying her, at that point, $25 a day. I know, it's huge. But what really happened and where the benefit came from is as I had more things that needed to be happening on an ongoing basis, I just had her hire other people in her village that were competent and able to handle it. I still paid her the exact same amount. She was paying the villagers less and actually making more and more money. I think she's one of the highest paid in her village at this point. I mean, and so really just helping everybody through this same build a team system that really started with one.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
In terms of the EOS system, like you've mentioned these different roles. You have your COO, you have your accounting, finance, marketing, sales, operations. I don't even know if customer service could be a separate department, but when you start, it's just an army of one doing absolutely everything.
Right.
And I know you started the same way just because everybody does. Then you're bringing people on board. Out of those different roles, do you think one really stands out as, if you're going to if you're going to offshore this role, what do you think the best one to start with is?
You know, it can be different for everybody. What I tell a lot of people to do is do a time audit and look at all the things that you're doing that you really don't like to do or are not more than, let's say, $10 an hour. And just write all those tasks down. If you spend 20 hours a week, doing administrative stuff, putting stuff in DocuSign, making phone calls to do certain appointments or whatever, just find somebody who's a catch-all executive assistant from even another country and just turf off some of those things. And if you're doing something that's specialized, for example, I was doing a lot of the brainstorming on the marketing. Well, now I got to hire somebody that's an expert in marketing, right? So things get more specialized and I want to get it off my plate. I'm going to hire somebody a little bit more specialized, maybe just 10 hours a week, or just kind of sitting there on the sidelines. And when they have work, they get it from me. And if not, then they don't get it. So if they get enough work where they're working 30 hours, I just make them full-time employees and tell them to get off these websites, the Upwork and the Fivers and all that.
And I got to be honest, I love Upwork. That's generally my go-to to find offshore and the onshore consultants. You do have to kiss some frogs,
right,
when you're really trying to identify those right people. And at least for myself, I will hire multiple people to do the exact same thing with the plan of, hey, it's just not going to work out with some of you. Others, I really want to keep you close.
I think it's even more so with AI. Everybody's using AI to make their profiles. Everybody seems like an English major and the top expert in the world. So, a lot of times you just have to test them with a task, hire 3 people, hey, accomplish this task, and then see what results they give you, and then make a decision off of that.
Okay, so there was just an ambulance going on in your background, and I couldn't help but just think, you've got a patient on their way, and I've got a new client on their way. The way the world works.
Everything around House of Blues, there's always like an ambulance going on or some cop cars. I don't know what's going on over there.
I don't know. You're way up in the building. How does that even get to you?
I think it's just because I'm right across the street.
So let me ask you a little bit more, because we do only have a few more minutes, and thank you everybody for chiming in and watching. In terms of this multiple streams of business of income, you only have so much bandwidth in your life. And I know that you're working 7 days a week, ungodly number of hours. How do you really manage everything with nothing falling through the cracks?
Well, so now we've moved back to ClickUp. I'm a big fan of ClickUp now, Monday, Google Sheets. So that's one thing, you have to have these tasks organized, and every company has a task. Every company has goals, quarterly goals, annual goals. And you have to come together as a group and say, okay, what tasks are going to get me to those goals? So that's number one. What actually has to be done? And then what we do now on a daily basis at 8 a.m. is I have a group video call with all the managers for the different companies. So my brother's on the real estate, I have Sohail on the e-commerce, I have Daniel with marketing, some other people for trading, another one for the med spa side. And I ask them, okay, what's your goal for the week and for the quarter? And what are the top 3 tasks you need to do today to make that happen? That will get us, that'll actually move the needle. Don't just don't just keep checking your email all the time and thinking you're doing a good job, right? And then the next day we come back and we talk about the previous day to see, hey, did that happen or not? If not, why? And then we start solving problems on the spot. So that's about 1 hour a day, and we cover bases. the high level on 5 different businesses.
Even though
Then
they're
on
completely different businesses, you will have one meeting with all the managers.
Right, because something, let's say something from the medical spa side, they're doing something that's working to solve a problem. Well, we haven't tried that on the real estate side. So there's some cross-pollination of ideas, and these are all the top minds in my company. It's basically like my own internal mastermind. And my bookkeeper's on there too, so he knows what's going on with the
Love it.
financials.
I don't know if you've ever joined or looked into EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization.
I've heard about it. I just haven't joined it. Isn't there an age limit on that, or am I thinking something else?
That's there's a different organization. That's the
Okay.
YPO, Young
Yeah, YPO. I
Professionals
was thinking
Organization.
YPO. Yeah.
EO, their requirement is you have at least $1 million of revenue per year. But the real benefit, and I love participating for years with it, is they put together a group of entrepreneurs that are in totally different businesses, and we meet once a month to discuss our problems, solutions, get advice. As entrepreneurs, we
Okay.
hate advice, but we get advice. And the amazing part of it is everybody had problems and headaches that everybody else related to. And we all had some insight and thought. And it didn't matter I had an architect, I had a construction guy, I had a clothing manufacturer, across the board, attorney. All of these businesses had the same types of issues and struggles. So totally makes
Yeah.
sense what you're doing with your team.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
It's a great one. There's only 150 or so members in Dallas. There's
Okay.
a little less in Fort Worth, but it's a great program to get involved with because they're all successful entrepreneurs. They're not the looky-loos.
Got it.
So we only have a couple more minutes. Amir, thank you so much for joining and sharing, honestly, so much great information today. Do you have any final words or thoughts or anything you'd like to share?
Well, I'm thinking if people are interested in starting a business or buying a business, you never know what you can do until you get started. And one thing, I forgot who said it, but people underestimate what they can do in 10 years and they overestimate what they can do in 1 year. So if you have a long-term vision, you might as well just get started, and you're probably going to regret not starting. Let's say if you don't start for 10 years, you can be like, wow, what if I had just done XYZ startup venture, or what if I just bought that business and got that SBA loan 10 years ago? Where would you be now? So I think to live without regrets is really important, more important than even being successful. So failing is also a part of success. So you are going to
That's
fail, small ones and big ones. So that's just part of the ride, and you learn from it and get stronger. So if there's people sitting on the sidelines, I would definitely recommend getting off the sidelines, partner with somebody if you need some motivation, watch videos out there on YouTube and podcasts like the ones Nate does, and just get out there and do something big and follow your dreams.
Love it. We are going to drop your contact information. Not even going to ask you which one because you have so many different businesses right now. But if somebody was interested in learning more of doing a Amazon business, interested in you doing a consulting for equity or some other type of opportunity together, who should reach out?
Well, they could reach out to me on LinkedIn, and if they're interested in the e-commerce, even if you're a little bit interested, I can at least point you in the right direction of where you need to go. Because there's a lot of ways to get involved. You could even just do marketing for somebody else. You could start from scratch. You could buy one out. You could become a limited partner. Or if you just want to learn more, I could point you to the right place too. So if you need to break some inertia, just let me know where you're at, and I'll recommend what I think the next step is.
Absolutely love it. So everybody that's joined today, thank you so much for spending a little while learning about, my God, we're just starting with Amazon, but you have so much knowledge in so many different entrepreneur areas. Amir, Baluch, doctor, fund manager, entrepreneur, real estate developer, extraordinaire. Thank you so much for joining today. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me.
Bye, guys.
See ya.